Welcome back to ABC2 Sports presentation of the greatest game. And here's another press box fact of the game. The official game program for the 1958 championship costs 50 cents. And today collectors pay hundreds of dollars for a program in good condition. And if you wanted an upper box seat for the game, it cost you $10. And now we're going to meet somebody who spent $10 to watch the game up there in the Bronx and another person who watched the game for free right here in Baltimore. Danny O'Toole saw it in person in Yankeeville.
Oh, I still get chills.
Michael Gibbons saw it at his home in Dickeyville.
Unbelievable, like nothing I had ever felt before.
Danny was a drummer in the band.
It just seemed like yesterday.
Mike was 11.
I remember that I was very nervous, and as that game went along, I mean, you could just tell that Johnny Unitas was a special character.
And when the picture went blank on TV,
my father got up like a wild man and ran out the front door, ran across the street to his car, and turned on the car radio, instead of turning on the radio in our own house. But what I noticed as I'm watching him is that other men on the block were doing the same thing. They're running out and getting into their cars.
This gave the band time to get into prime position for the tying field goal that was caught by George Schaefer.
He caught the ball, and they were mobbing him. He had a broken nose, I believe. He had his chin all busted up. His coat was ripped, and he got out of the pack somehow and threw the ball over to me. I took the ball, put it inside my drum case.
Dodging left, right, lefts, and drenched in beer, Danny had an idea.
I unscrewed the drum head itself, put the ball inside the drum head, put the screws back in, then put the drum inside the case.
And when Alan the Horse Amici scored in a Baltimore living room,
we jumped around the room, we hugged, and just acted like wild people.
In a Yankee stadium,
there was no reaction. You couldn't see it. It was bedlam. There was thousands of people just jumping out of the stands, coming across the field for it.
Nobody knew then what we know now about how this game changed the NFL and us.
This gave us a credential and put us on the map, and I don't think that we've ever really left that map. I think that that was the start of Baltimore's cultural renaissance, that we had a new identity. It was forged with our sports teams, and we've always been, ever since then, very proud of our sports heritage.
How proud?
You couldn't say how proud. If I was wearing a shirt, my buttons would be popping off.
Danny O'Toole would return to Baltimore, and the day after the greatest game, he asked the greatest question.
I got engaged, so that means I can always remember when the game was, and it keeps me alive that I can remember when I got engaged.
Mike Gibbons would grow up and become our historian, touching the very items that now touch us.
The Baltimore Colts will make you cry. If you remember them, if you were part of that whole thing that went on back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you can come down here and expect to get emotional.
So come on down and cry with me. We've been crying since this exhibit opened, and it'll be open until June of '09. And I want to thank Michael Gibbons and John Zeman and Dave Fishvott and Sean Hearn and Greg Swallenberg for putting on a great display here at Sports Legends. You owe it to yourself to come on down. Great to have Ray Schulte from Schulte Sports, Mr. Memorabilia here. Listen, everybody's a collector, and these people have hung on to this for 50 years.
That's unbelievable.
Tickets and programs. What do you have there?
Well, right here I have a 1958 to 60 game used Lenny Moore white Doreen. It's a away jersey that we have been assigned to auction. And this is...
How much do you think this one's going to go for, Ray?
Well, the estimate is between $20,000 and $25,000. But again, you know, in the memorabilia business is basically, you know, what you pay for it. I mean, it's whoever outbids the other bidder, that's what they're going to come up with.
So we're hearing at the game, there were between 13 and 15,000 Cole fans up there. If I have a program, how much is that program in good use from 58?
Yeah, again, that's a good point because it's got to be in good condition to get the maximum value. I would say the estimate between $400 and $600, but again, it can rise, and that would be just an estimate. So,
how about a ticket?
A ticket around the same range. Again, depending upon the quality of the ticket, the better the quality, the higher the range, and maybe that is a little bit more valuable than the program because obviously that's a little bit more meaningful. That tells you that you were actually at the game.
How about that goalpost where all the Colts signed it, the wooden goalpost? Any idea on that one?
Well, I mean, again, that's up to the bidder. I mean, it's the sky's the limit on that. It's, I mean, you could go from anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 and probably higher, but that's a one-of-a-kind, unique item.
You know, back in that day, I take it they just collected just because it meant something to them.
Yeah,
But
it's not the
changed
collecting like it is
right?
today. Yeah, it's not the collecting
Explain
like it is
that.
today. Well, back then, obviously, they just, if it was more of a memorable event. I talked to a gentleman the other day. He's 81 years old, and he has his program, his ticket, and a piece of the goalpost. He stormed the field and got a piece of the goalpost, but he kept that just because he cherished the moment, the fact that he was there. It wasn't the fact that it was going to appreciate or double or triple. And today, obviously, any monumentous event, people are going to go and they're going to get whatever they can get, and they're going to try to resell it or put it away for their kids.
Ray, what's the one item that would make your mouth drop?
Wow, that's a good one. I know that there's not many out there. Obviously, a game ball would be a unique item, and anything that's obviously from the game itself would be very special.
And what have you seen that has really made your jaw drop that you've seen in person, held in your own hands, beside Lenny Moore's jersey here?
Wow, I mean, you can't do too much better than this.
I know.
But again, piece of the goalpost. That's very. The key thing with that, though, is you just have to have credible authenticity. You just have to be able to track it back and make sure that that's the item that that basically is from that event. I know that the museum here will have a Johnny Unitas 58 ring. I mean, that would be heaven. That would be gold.
So if people that are watching tonight, Ray, what would you advise them to do if they have something in their house?
Well, if they're willing to give it up.
Yeah, right.
Because Baltimore fans, they've been notorious for holding on to this for so many years. But if they are willing to explore, and it's not a bad idea to explore, to just see what the value is. You can go to Google and any sports memorabilia auction houses and talk to them and find out if they would take something on consignment and just go through that process. And that will give you a good feel for what the value is. And if you choose to sell it, you put a reserve on it that you feel comfortable with, and then you could generate some revenue.
Ray, thanks a million.
Oh,
Ray
nice.
Schulte from Schulte Sports. We'll have our 2-minute warning, and then we'll have our final huddle when we come right back. And here's information if you're interested in the DVD of the 1958 Football Championship created by Rare Sports Incorporated, or the Sudden Life book published by Pressbox. Then head to the Pressbox website, which is www.pressboxonline.com.